Here is a Sinclair Microdrive in which I need to replace the magnetic head. If a microdrive starts misbehaving, there are a few things that can go wrong with them, but here I'm concentrating on the head. You can test the coils in the head with a multimeter. The resistance across the two erased coil pins over on the left is generally about 98 ohms, and across each of the two read-write coils over on the right, it's about 15 ohms. The erased coil is simple enough to understand, but note that there are two read-write coils because the data is recorded in a pattern that alternates between an upper and a lower track. The Spectrum and QL microdrives have a few differences, but the heads are the same. Unfortunately, it seems that Sinclair used a custom-made head, and replacements are quite rare, although they do occasionally appear on eBay. You can also get a replacement from another microdrive, as long as it has failed for some other reason besides having a faulty head. As I mentioned earlier, the only real way to be sure is to check the coil resistances. The unit pictured here is the Spectrum version, and this one is the QL version, which is the version I'm working on today. The drive's PCB will need to be removed to gain access to the head mounting. This is made easier by unscrewing the microswitch, which is soldered to the PCB, and the motor, which is kind of in the way of one of the screws. At least it was on the one I had to work with. And of course the head itself will need to be desoldered. To physically remove the head, I couldn't think of any way other than to cut off the heads of those two moulded plastic domes either side of it with a craft knife. You need to leave two small stumps of the plastic so that you can more accurately position the new head, so avoid cutting them flush with the body. The new head should now be positioned on the two plastic stumps and then somehow held in position. I used two blobs of glue, which can just about be seen by their slightly shiny appearance in this image. Once the head is secure, the PCB can be screwed back into position. And here is the head ready for soldering. On the version that I have here, there is also a wire that needs putting back into one of the holes first. And here once more is the microdrive unit with the head soldered back in position. Before putting it back, it's also worth cleaning any oxide buildup off the rubber wheel so that it can grip the tape better. Some people also like to turn the wheel upside down to get a newer surface, but you do have to be careful not to push the wheel down too far because there needs to be some clearance underneath it. Anyway, if this is all something you want to try, I hope I've at least shown that it is certainly something that most people can do with just a bit of care and a bit of planning.